Of an ideology, and ideologies don't have boundaries. They're near absolutes.
Yeah,
in the
sure.
sense that, and you cannot be in that system. You can, even if you leave that system or are around that system, you are still affected by it.
Yes, but I don't think that necessarily makes you a part of the system.
Yeah, but it doesn't. Yeah, sure. You're not. You could. I don't know.
Look at it this way. Look at it this way. Okay, a prison, right? I don't consider people within prison to be a part of society. They are affected by society.
Massive.
No, I don't think they are. I think they're literally separate to society. We have gathered them. We have put them in a camp, a place.
Functional mechanism of society.
Yeah, yes, they are affected by society, but they are not a part of society. Like, just because you are affected by something doesn't mean you're a part of it. Like I said before, like, just because you have two teams in soccer, engaging in a game doesn't mean that everyone's part of the same team. They're all part of the same game, which is something like the overall meta-social structure of the world.
See, I'm not talking about it. I'm talking the fact that if you've got two soccer teams, that one person can be on the field but not playing the game. That's what I'm getting at, and you cannot have. And I'm not talking about whether or not, okay, I'm talking about the fact that you cannot be outside of the law of this system, because that construct is it's an everlasting across. Like, say, the laws here on Australia, they are in Australians' water. Australia, those are current. Doesn't matter anywhere you are. You can self-isolate. You can do all these things.
Sure. There are laws that apply in the sense that they make a judgment about you, right? But then there are laws that don't get to act on that judgment. For example, Ned Kelly, when he was in Australia, wasn't really, like, he was beyond the reach of the law in a sense that the law can't touch him, in a sense. He's always on the run. He's an outlaw. Like, he...
Well, but they did. He's dead. Like, he
yes, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yes, they did. But we're saying as he lived as an outlaw. Of, like, if you get caught by the law, then you're literally dragged back into the social system.
You're part of the system. You're just on the negative. You're on the system's system has governed you as a criminal, and you are still part of it. You don't have, like, you've got the abiding citizens and the non-abiding citizens. You don't leave that margin.
See, I think you...
If Ned Kelly's over here in the criminal area,
Sure.
And this is from people from just any kind of, they're violating the law.
Sure.
Where can he go which gets him out of that?
Well, he literally, like,
No, as in this system, like in this area of right, good, and just, and bad and not. How does he leave that moral spectrum for the social?
But I'm not talking about, like, a moral like I will very well concede with you that we can have a system of law that makes a normative judgment about something. That's ideology. I'll agree with you. You cannot escape that, right? No matter what, laws will make a judgment about a person. They will say this person is criminal, this person is citizen.
And that's what I'm getting at.
Right.
That's the only thing I'm talking about is the fact you cannot physically escape the law with that.
Yeah. Okay.
You can't do it. Like, think about it. Like,
I understand that.
If you've got an overarching, infinite ideology which is really what it's doing is it's drawing a line in the sand.
Yeah.
You can't escape that.
Yeah. What I thought you were trying to say was there isn't an outside of the law in that there is nobody not affected by the law. I think, right, and when I mean affected, I don't mean ideologically affected or affected in terms of their identity, i.e. you are a criminal. What I mean by affect as in the law actually exhibits some sort of material or institutional power over their lives. There are people who exist, and yes, the law makes judgments about them, calls them criminals, says that they are committing crimes or whatever. But these people, they're not affected by the power of the law
at that current moment.
At that current moment, yeah, I'll agree with that. The law does, for the very vast majority of the accursed men that live in the world, it catches up with them. But as they are not caught, they effectively live beyond the reach or the physical effects of the law.
Yeah, I don't know, but see, they're still not unrestricted though. They're still affected.
No, I absolutely. They, like, the whole point of the accursed man is that he is incredibly restricted, right? Like, he is literally told you cannot come into
Yeah.
society. You have to remain an
And
outcast.
this is what
it's like the greatest
and this-
restriction.
My biggest quote is I don't like the terminology. You can be outside of it. I feel like it's a lot more clear if you classify that you are still within these boundaries. You just have adverse limitations to what you can do, or what you can get away with. But you're not like to say that you are outside of this system implies that that you can run away. Like that I in Australia cannot be affected by even if Australian government had infinite power and infinite resources.
Institutional, like they're omnipresent, like omnipotent, like
we're talking what is it?
you're
Like
living
cyberpunk.
in you're living in the Matrix. They're just going to spawn cops behind you or something.
A good example of this is which is like one of the closer countries to this is China.
Yeah.
Near absolute power and stuff like that. You can't to then say that you can escape that while being in the waters of Australia.
Yeah.
You can't make that statement.
Yeah,
and that's why I want to classify that. I feel that it could be better described and better actually more clearly represented as things with mechanisms or people within these systems, but are these quite just outliers or not outliers. They are unique.
Well,
to these
real quick, okay, this is a really good example, right? Let's say you have done something that is a crime in China, right? Or is considered a crime in China, right? I would be fine saying that if you wanted to present it in a way saying that I'm not outside Chinese law in that they would label me a criminal. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you are literally outside Chinese law in that they can't affect you physically. Like Chinese agents can't come in and literally physically affect you with some sort of institutional power at this moment. Obviously that's subject to change.
To make that statement is because you could have people who are doing that. It's to make that as an absolute change. I don't think you can make the statement as an absolute. You can make it as a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I'm getting at is you've got to incorporate all possibilities. There could be a point where they're literally sending a spies.
Yeah, sure.
They're violating the law here, but they're still going on.
Hey, we could come under a day after tomorrow scenario.
And this is what I'm getting at is we're talking about to draw this line is really to look at absolute authority.
Yeah,
in the sense that say with Australia, if someone was outside Australian waters, it's still what's it called? Current with authority because it isn't absolute authority enough because this government system only has area.
Yeah, like you said, you would have to be God's law or something.
What I'm getting at is with these law systems, it's still even if they can't enact it, it's still current within these things, and it's still part of the system. Even though they can't be affected, they're still either have just hid or are doing other things. It's still they're not. To say that they're outside the system, it's more like. You could say that they are finding loopholes to get things done with.
A loophole is in a physical one where it's I'm outside the country.
And a loophole is say me speeding, but knowing where all the cameras are. I've got a guy around. That's a loophole. He's not out of the system. He's just cheating the system.
Yeah.
And just like Ned Kelly, he's not out of the system. He's just cheating it by not. He's if I'm not caught. Then I'm not caught.
Yeah,
I'm over here.
So
he's not outside. He's cheating the system.
Yeah.
And with the person who's exiled, he's not outside of it. He's just at that point you're talking about the fact that he's that's more consequence. That's just going to prison. And that's in a sense that
so
outcast,
I think there is a difference between someone who's institutionalized, as in they're in prison, and there's someone who's hasn't been caught.
No, but the guy I'm talking about the outcast.
Oh, okay, Go ahead.
The Roman, the bloke who's thought of as an animal.
Yeah,
that is a punishment.
Yeah,
that is someone who's been caught, is shit off one of the loopholes, and is thrown out.
Yeah,
that's a very different thing, and that is closer to someone in a prison.
Yeah,
and that's just
it's effectively just a prison, but we haven't got walls.
Prison is just the implications of people not following these things. They are not current. They are like they could be thought of. Whether or not, generally speaking, I would consider someone in prison a law-abiding citizen, considering.
Okay, go
considering
ahead.
That they have done this, they've committed the crime. That is done. They are now, as long as they're not committing more crimes in the jail, able, because they are within the confines of the...
Sure, they have been held accountable, but I'm not sure if... Well, okay, you know what? I'll concede, because before I did say that a person inside society is someone who is held accountable by the law. So, you know, I will concede that. People who are in prisons are... In my sense, they are law-abiding citizens because they are held accountable.
Exactly, and someone who's not law-abiding is someone who is not in the prison.
Yeah, or not held...
Or in the prison and is finding loopholes.
Yeah,
like
shanking people. Yeah, well, I guess what the author was also trying to note was that the sovereign is someone who is like not held accountable in such a way. And you would probably argue that like being the sovereign is the ultimate loophole because there's like literally anything you can do is like, oh, it's the law because I say it's the law.
Yeah. Like it's just loopholes, and they can be on the just side, like say finding like niche laws and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like very lawyer kind of shit.
Or they can be like on the
which is kind of
like the absolute power side.
Two very common, like I don't know, like one which is what's it called? Which is a very fine line, is taxes. If you really want to define what is the closest between the two, is tax evasion. Because there's tax evasion through finding loopholes on the positive, but it's a very fine line to just straight up tax evasion.
Yeah, where it's like you're committing a crime as a tax.
Not really, because tax evasion on the negative side is you're just not paying your taxes. You can draw a straight line through it because tax evasion on the positive side, on the law-abiding side, is just finding a loophole. Like, I'll just spend.
Yeah, it's technically not illegal. It's like it's just like you're still doing the action, but you're making it legal because you're doing something that's making it legal.
Like a money laundering.
Yeah. I mean, that's not necessarily legal, but like
Oh no, the act of what they're doing to get the money is obviously they are finding loopholes outside of like they're like blatant. They're just not getting caught. But the actual money laundering is just that's just tax evasion. But no, in the sense of that they are like it's. I'd still consider that as a lawful thing.
What's curious, and you'll probably like this, right? And this is very much to do with prisons. So the author also. The original like Homo sacer was an animal in the wild. Like, you know, if he gets caught, we can kill him, but effectively he can run free. In the modern day, we don't have that. Like, in the modern day, the accursed man is put in what he determines to be a camp. And a camp, for him, he uses the term camp, but it's just a space within society where the powers that be, whether they be a monarch or like a democracy or some sort of institutionalized executive power, determines you to be. For example, it might say, like during the 1940s Germany, you are a Jew, you belong here in this ghetto in Poland, right? Yeah. It's like a camp is somewhere in society where you are told you must be.
I think you're going to make a distinction in the sense that it depends on the law of the system. Because to compare it directly with his outcast, the only time I would actually consider it as the closest you're going to get is places where they have the death penalty. Because one thing which people have unless you're finding obviously loopholes, is they do not have the power to get rid of you just full stop. Like they don't say we in Australia we don't have the power to just there's no death penalty. Like we can't just kill someone.
Yeah.
And that is with this guy, even though he's allowed to be free, you can kill him. And that's what I'm saying. There's a distinction.
There is a distinction.
In areas where they have the death penalty, I would agree that they are very close.
Yeah.
Because they have the power to say, we want this person to live, but not this person.
Yeah.
Compared to Australia, compared to a lot of places which don't have it, where it is literally like we can do a lot of things, but we still have to, for the most part, like it's really, you could even draw the line between places which like follow like human rights and places which don't follow human rights. Because the human rights are constructed, separating this a little bit from the death penalty is to like you can't just pretty much commit grievous bodily harm.
Well, that's one of the key aspects that the author talks about, is that the way that an accursed man is punished is like, it's not like with a trial or a ritualistic killing, which is something like a hanging or a guillotine or something that's like a public display of consequence.
Yeah.
It's usually like a guy led around the back and then just shot, right?
I don't know. I'm like, no, the way you said it is this bloke's led. He's thought of as animal, but he can just be gone.
Yes,
that implies a level. I still think there's
So this is why it's different, right? So like a person in society who is just caught doing a crime and then he is like hung, right? Like let's say he murders somebody, caught and he's hanged. He's not necessarily like the accursed man. He's not a social outcast because he's within society and he is controlled by society. He is a product of society. He has a connection, a network with society, right? He interacts with them in some way. Compared to something like the social outcast who doesn't. For example, like one of the things we discussed in the class was the difference between somebody like Osama bin Laden, right?
Yeah.
Who was literally, like a man hiding from the law. Once he is found, then he's just shot and killed.
Yeah.
Compared to someone like Gaddafi, who I'm not sure if Gaddafi was hiding, but once they found him, they put him on trial and then he was killed, right? Like there is a system of law or like a ritualistic killing that seems to be integral to something like citizenship. Whereas for the accursed man, no such thing exists. Trials don't exist. Like there isn't like a thing like an execution. It's just a killing in a sense. Like a really good example. This is probably the better example. Is the difference between the French aristocracy during the French Revolution, who were taken, stripped of their titles, made citizens, tried, then guillotined, compared to the Romanovs of the Russian Revolution, who were still royalty and everything, but they were literally just like led into a room and shot. Like they are, in a sense, not accounted for by the law.
Classify that to this. I don't know. I still think they're fundamentally different from this person you were just outcasting. And sure, if you find them, you can kill them. But you implying that they are not just shot, but they are somehow, if anything, they're allowed to continue being. In some sense, as long as they don't get found and nobody interacts with them and they just live on that fucking hill over there and nobody bothers them.
Yeah.
Compared to just like being either within the law or outside the law. Because again, you're talking about just two areas where it's just you're either on one side or you're finding a abiding by loophole or a violating the law loophole. That's all you're doing. Like it's not. So you're not outside of it. You're just finding a loophole in the negative aspect of it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You know what? I'm really happy with your interpretation. Let's say that.
Yeah.
I've been recording this for my own thoughts later. Is it okay if I maybe post this on Twitter?
I don't care.
You don't care? Okay. Awesome. I probably will post it on Twitter.
I'm not sad.
Radio. Night, man.